I believe that one of our next generation of Republican leaders, one who may not be as well known as I am today, one who has not yet taken their message across the country, one who's just getting started, may well emerge as being better able to defeat the Democrat nominee. In fact, I expect and hope that to be the case.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mitt Romney, of course, last week when, there were some who say he didn't drop out of the race, that the door is open, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Joining us now is Ruben Navarrette Jr., our friend, syndicated columnist and CNN contributor. Hello, Ruben.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Good to talk to you. Okay, so you wrote a piece and at CNN.com, and you say that the big winner, because of Romney's departure, or never having entered, is one Marco Rubio.
Yeah. A lot of people think I'm wrong about that. They think that Jeb Bush is the natural inheritor of all those Romney voters. They think somehow that if you were inclined to be for Romney, it's because, you're going to be for Romney. If you can't have Romney, you want Bush. I don't think so. I think that everybody knows name recognition, Bush and Romney voters were very much saying, I don't want Bush. And so I think those people go to Rubio.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. Now, Rubio, of course, has given every indication that he will run, although, of course, no announcement from anybody on the Republican side as of yet. But talk about Rubio, because he's had this, what many call this immigration problem.
Yeah, he's had an immigration problem in the same way that Barack Obama's had an immigration problem, because he's trying to be all things to all people. It's very hard in immigration policy to be both tough and compassionate. And I know from people who are close to Marco that he really sees himself in a delusional way as sort of a savior for Hispanic immigrants. He really thinks in his heart of hearts that he's trying to help Hispanic immigrants. But you don't help immigrants by proposing a bill and then walking away from it. So as far as the left is concerned, I'm not sure where Rubio gets this idea that somehow he's been a kind of deliverer for those immigrants, because he's not doing much for them. And I think that's part of his appeal, though. In the overall, he has various gifts. He's a great communicator. He's a young, fresh voice. He knows foreign policy very well. He was really done well by the Cuba policy, which I happen to agree with him on. So he's caught some good breaks, and he's a good candidate.
Is there this? I'm not going to say is there. There is this real divide, is there not, between Cuban American Hispanics and non-Cuban American Hispanics? They have different stories. They have different feelings. Am I oversimplifying it? Am I incorrect?
A little bit. They're not really at direct loggerheads the way you have a direct conflict between oftentimes African Americans and Latinos. You don't have that. You have in the Latino community a sense that the Mexican Americans are never going to understand what it's like to be Cuban. So during the Elian Gonzalez crisis, Mexican Americans very foolishly, to my mind, said, oh yeah, send him back home. And now I think Cuban Americans don't understand fully what it's like to be Mexican, because they come into this country on a magic carpet. The Cuban Adjustment Act, the 1966 law, says that if you make it to dry shore, you're good to go. So I think that you can become a legal resident. So I think neither group has empathy for what the other's gone through and has to go through. But I don't think they're directly in conflict.
You believe it's a good idea for the GOP to skip the Univision debate, correct?
Absolutely.
Why?
Univision has again shown itself to be a partisan network in favor of Democrats, making Democrats look good, making Republicans look bad. I don't think the RNC owes them anything, and I think that it's time we spoke honestly about what Univision is. It's a shill for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, so could the same be said? I know you're focusing on the Hispanic network, but could the same be said in many instances for a lot of the liberal networks, one of which you might work for?
Well, the liberal network of MSNBC, for sure. I mean, there's no semblance of truth and honesty coming out of MSNBC. When a Democrat does something wrong, they still find a way of telling that story so the Republicans look bad, which is interesting. Likewise, on Fox News, I think that there's very clearly a bias in favor of the right, in favor of Republicans and conservatives. And so, yeah, bias all the way around. But I think Univision, in this case, really wants to somehow say that it represents Hispanics, 80% of whom do not get their news in Spanish. They get it in English. And so I think Univision should fess up to what it is. It's a surrogate for the Democratic Party at this point.
I'll leave CNN out of this. We got 30 seconds out of respect because you work there. But what about NBC, CBS? I mean, a lot of people, including me, would say they're totally biased against Republicans.
I agree. I would agree with that as well. I think CNN also fits that category at times. CNN's probably the bigger problem, and it affects a lot of the networks as well. They cover the wrong stories. They talk about Hollywood weddings and plane crashes and things, and they have a real warped sense of what people want to see on television.
All right. Ruben, I'd love to go on, but I'm out of time. I appreciate your honesty. Thank you, sir. We'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Ruben Navarrette. The Closing Bell Report is next. How are the numbers? Don't go away.